I couldn't sleep last night. Well, I had trouble, and I woke early. So I decided to come out here and look at the sunrise on this misty spring morning. And as I've been standing here, watching the sun come up over this beautiful landscape, I realised why my night was disturbed. My son, Oswald, is nearly a man now, nearly 18, nearly the same age I was when I arrived in this valley, all of 26 years ago. My, the time has flown. And so much has been achieved in that time. Many seasons have passed. Here, where there are now crops, flax, orchards, the rye I've just harvested, the oats I've just planted, this was barren land, and over there, where my village now stands, was nothing but empty land. And now we are nestled in amongst what was here. Of course, the most recent addition to the village is the walls to protect us. I look back and I remember that I arrived here, so young, having lost everything, searching for that last hope of surviving family and finding none. When I found that out, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to stay here. But then, I toured around a little, I travelled, I spoke to local people, got to know them, and explored the area. And one day I came to this spot and I thought, this could have potential. So, I decided maybe I'd just stick around a little while. And I built this, my very first house. Of course, it was just wattle and stone, wattle then, with some daub eventually. And it's since been upgraded to be logs. I loved that there were berry bushes close by, and originally my food storage stood right there next door, handy for me. And I had a little field right here. But that's long gone now. I love cherry trees, so I planted one next to it to remind me of where it all started. But this is where I lived until very recently, with my wife Sibora. We've been married, nearly 20 years now? And I did plant a cherry tree there. I built this house just before I married her so that she would have somewhere nice to live, although she'd been working in the village for me for a while. But now, we've just built this house and we live here now with our son, Oswald. And I've just planted a cherry tree here to remind us of how far we've come. And I've been working hard in the last 2 or 3 years to build the fences that surround our little village, because there are rumours that bandits are around us and maybe coming into the valley itself. Of course, that isn't surprising, considering that war has raged around our borders over the years. Our good king has put calls out to the villagers for reinforcements of barricades, tools to build them with, and then materials to rebuild after he's managed to repel war from our lands. We keep sheep and goats, we use the wool for clothing, and the milk we currently sell. Of course, I didn't do all this on my own. Here lives Gerwin, with his wife, Oswalda, and their 2 children, their 2 girls, Ildefonsa and Dragomira. Gerwin was my first young recruit. He was only 18 when I hired him, or recruited him. I promised him, give me your labour, I will provide housing, wood for your home, food for you, and everything you need. Perhaps one day we will all be able to grow families here. And I'm lucky, I've managed to keep my word to him. Of course, the house on the other side, which we'll get to, houses other people who are key to the village. But it also includes this couple, Bernard and Roberta. Bernard looks after our excavation, and Roberta looks after all of our hunting needs, which she works. So they work from this building here, the hunting lodge, and the woodshed there. And these buildings are on this side of the village, along with the excavation hut. Because on this side of the village, there is an abundant supply of everything they need. Lots of trees. There were boars locally, but the wall seems to have moved them out from us a little bit. But there are definitely foxes, rabbits, and deer, wisent, and more boar further away. And look, clay right outside our walls. We have everything we need right on our doorsteps. And of course our resource storage is fairly central to our village, along with our production area here, where we have our blacksmith hard at work, making our tools. We have our seamstress hard at work making our clothes. And nobody in the woodshed at the moment, but I do tend to go in there myself and make some buckets occasionally. And of course, right here in the centre of the village is our tavern. I remember when I first put that fireplace in, and then there were little stools, little rough stools. And the first night I put it in, there were 5 little stools, and the 5 people I had at that time in the village with me sat there, and we planned what we wanted for the future. So that was Gerwin and Oswalda, Aubert and Guinevere, who live in that house there. Aubert takes care of our barn work. And Guinevere, who works in the sewing hut, looks after all our production. My darling wife is at the centre of the village, so she works in the tavern, and I'm sure they prefer her cooking over mine. I know I do. So she works here, making the food for everybody, and a little bit left over that we sell on the stall. And of course, all the villagers bring their news to us, bring their news to her, through her. So I check in with her regularly to see what's going on and make sure that everything is being taken care of. I don't know how I'd have done it without her, and it's really because of her that I stayed. I still remember the first time I saw her. I was leaving Gostovia one evening. I can't even remember why I was there, but as I was leaving, the sun was setting and the fire had just lit, and she was sitting beside the fire, and the glow caught her hair, and it was like autumn shades, and it just stopped me in my tracks, and I had to talk to her. Our love grew, and eventually I asked her to join me, and from there my decision was to stay. Oh, and here we have the bees, and Oswald takes care of those. Very good. These 2 houses are the most recent addition, and I hear tales or rumours that Marwood and Scarborough Mira, who have recently moved in there, are planning another child, if they can have one. We are currently at 25 population. That would make it 26. But I may have to recruit more in the future, because at the moment we only have 2 boys of the 11 children currently in the village. My son is one of them. We also have ducks here, and here the stable where I keep my wonderful donkey, who has transported me ably around the lands in more recent years. And of course our pigs for our manure. And out here And this is part of what attracted me to this spot. We face south here, so we get the full sun all day. The hills behind us shelter us from the worst of the northern winds. We have this wonderful view, and I had hoped at some point to maybe put a tavern down here, one of the open ones, so that we can sit, particularly on a summer's day, and look at the wonderful views ahead of us. Of course, our fisher works out here. And this, of course, is where the road passes through town. We have Tutki in that direction. We have a mine that we use off to the north there. Borowo lies in that direction, and across the river over there, Gostovia, where I met my wonderful wife. And of course, everybody who now lives in the village, or at least all the adults, came from somewhere further away. Wars have displaced many people. Some of them are looking for a home. And this is our entrance to the village. And I'm so proud of what we've managed to achieve in those few years. I spent the first 3 years alone, so over 23 years we've grown from one house and a couple of support buildings to this, a thriving settlement that has great potential for growth. A wonderful community I'm proud to be part of. My tribe, our tribe, and here we have thrived. So this is my village. And now I want to give a personal thanks to, first, RenderCube for delivering and developing this wonderful game that has so much of everything I want in exactly the right amount. I love city builders, but I hate when they get too big. So the fact that I can control how big this gets and how fast it gets there is wonderful to me. I love the fact that you're actually living within that city itself and working within it yourself. I like the fact that it's such a beautiful landscape, and that it's in a time that's past. No modern machinery to remind me of modern times. To Toplitz Productions for producing and publishing this game. And of course the wonderful Discord community that I've been lucky enough to be a member of, that have been supporting players with help, advice and information. And now this is the end of the early access. This is being recorded on the 22nd of September 2021, and version 0.1 is due for release tomorrow, which will bring all sorts of wonderful new additions to the game that I look forward to trying out. So it does mean that I will be restarting, and this will be, although I will keep this save, this will be the last time I am probably actively developing this village. I've loved it, and this is a site I may come back to at some point, but I'm looking for fresh grounds for my next save. Thank you, and I look forward to chatting with you all or seeing you again at some point.